Hi everyone! We are getting so close to the end of the Parker inheritance. The last time that we read, Candace and Brandon, along with Miss McMillan and Tori, went to the bank to find out what the key unlocks. And they decided that they were going to open the bank on a Saturday when they are normally closed and tell Candace and Brandon's family about what's been going on. So now we're on to chapter 47, and we only have 5 chapters left. Chapter 47, Beatrix Holiday, June 12, 2007. Beatrix Holiday was scrambling eggs and sipping her second cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. You'd think those salesmen would wait until 9 before bothering people. Her husband took a drink of orange juice as the bell rang again. Coming, he yelled as he slowly rose from his chair. He had undergone hip surgery a year before. He no longer needed a cane, but Beatrix still worried whenever he was out of her sight. A few seconds later, he returned. "Bea," he said, "it's Mr. Parker. He's outside waiting for you." Beatrix placed her mug on the counter. Mr. Parker. She hadn't seen him in over 19 years. Not since he presented her granddaughter Tiffany with that scholarship to Colorado Law. Mr. Parker smiled as she stepped on the porch. A large envelope was tucked under his arm. "Hello, Miss Holiday." "Good morning, Mr. Parker. It's been a long time." "Do you have a few minutes? Can we sit?" He motioned to her swing. It had been a gift from her son. They sat down and slowly began to sway. "I know you keep in touch with a number of employees at my former company. What are they saying about me, Miss Holiday?" She put her foot down, stopping the swing. "Former? I'll get to that in a moment. What are they saying?" A tricycle sat in the middle of her yard. It belonged to Tara, her youngest great-granddaughter. "They say you've lost your ever-loving mind, that you're giving away all your money in strange investments, and some of them still aren't happy that so many women and minorities are in leadership positions." She raised her foot, and the swing began to move again. "Now what's this about former company? I liquidated my stock and turned in my resignation." "But you built that company up from the ground." "No, James Parker did." "You're really not making any sense." 21 years ago, you told me to go to her. Thank you for that. You saved my life." Beatrix didn't need to ask who her was. "What happened?" she asked. She didn't like the new me, the person I had become, so I changed and became better. But I was too late. "Mr. Parker, you're really not making any—" "Please don't call me that," he said. "I know what I'm saying sounds strange. It's all outlined here." He patted the envelope sitting between them. "Siobhan died 7 years ago." Beatrix placed her hand on her old boss's arm. "I'm so sorry." "It was cancer. I didn't know until she'd exhausted all her treatment options. I flew to her as soon as she told me." In typical Siobhan fashion, she spent most of our time talking about my well-being. He turned to Beatrix. "How's your granddaughter doing at the law firm?" "She's well on making her way to partner, and she's met someone. Don't know if she'll get married, though. We'll see." Beatrix frowned. "Why do you ask?" "I need a favor." She removed her hand from Mr. Parker's sleeve. "I don't know. It's not illegal, I promise. I could hire any old lawyer to handle this, but I want someone that I trust." He handed the envelope to Beatrix. "Everything she needs is in there. Mr. Parker, take a look at it yourself if you want to." She pulled a few papers from the envelope. "The New Air Foundation? But don't you already have a—" "This is a different type of organization. I'm looking for a—" He laughed. "It's a search for an heir, spelled H-E-I-R. He rose from the bench. "If you think anything is illegal or even questionable, you can toss the packet and pretend you never saw it. Either way, you won't see me again." She rose as well. "Mr. Parker, I don't like how you're talking." He smiled. Beatrix wasn't sure, but it seemed like the first real smile she'd ever seen from the man. He stepped off the porch, then turned to look at her one last time. "Reggie, Miss Holiday. My name is Reggie." Chapter 48. Candace's father arrived in Lambert that evening. He jumped on the road immediately after talking to her mother. Candace had prepared dinner for them. Very little of it burnt, but they barely touched their food. She had explained everything that happened over the summer, but they seemed to struggle with processing the information. From what I can tell, this James Parker guy was rich, like millionaire rich, her father said. You're telling me you kids found all this money? I don't know. That's why we're going back to the bank tomorrow. I wish you had told me what was going on, her mother said. I could have helped. She was my mother. She rested her head in her hands. I can't believe any of this is happening. I'm sorry, Mom, Candace said. She wanted to fast forward through this part. I wanted to tell you, but I thought you'd tell me to stop. I would have, she said, just like I told her 10 years ago. And don't beat yourself up, her father said, but he looked like he wanted to reach out to her. He didn't, though. But you should have told someone, Candy. Me, your mom, Brandon's mother, any adult. No offense, Dad, but Brandon and I did pretty okay by ourselves, and Tori helped. Tori is not an adult, his father replied. What if this turns out to be a sham? Candace shrugged. There are worse ways to spend the summer. Don't be a gib, Candy. I'm not. She sat up taller. And please don't call me Candy anymore. Her father shook his head. What happened to our baby girl? She grew up. Her mother stood from the table and picked up a plate. If you'd been paying attention, you would have realized that Candace hates when you call her that. You never notice how she flinches every time you call her Candy? Candace hadn't even realized she'd been doing that. And Dad, did you know we've been messing up the lyrics to September this whole time? I didn't know until Brandon told me. Her father coughed. Oh, is that right? He kept his eyes on his plate instead of looking at her. What, you knew? He gave her a sheepish grin. Candace, she said. He sighed. I'm sorry, sweetheart. It's just, you were so cute, and I didn't have the heart to tell you when you were younger. It seemed harder to correct you as you got older. The way I saw it, it was like our little secret, kind of like a little joke. Except the joke was only on me, Candace said. It's not that big a deal, he said. It's only a song. Dad, I'm not a baby anymore. You don't have to lie to me all the time. Enough, her mother said. Candace waited for her mom to try for her to talking to her father like that. Instead, she placed her arm on her dad's shoulder. She's right, Joe. She's not a baby. Her voice was soft, almost like a blanket. Talk to her. It'll be okay. She leaned over and kissed her dad on the forehead. It was almost like old times. All right, what was that about? Candace asked after her mother left the room. Her father pushed his food around on his plate. Nothing, sweetheart. Your mother just wants everyone to be happy. I am happy, she said, and I think Mom is too. Her father cut into his chicken breast. Dad, is something wrong? Are you not happy? She asked. Are you sick? No, I'm fine, really. Is it about Danielle? He put down his utensils. Who? Danielle. I overheard you and Mom talking about her. And before you start, she already scolded me about eavesdropping, Candace said. Anyway, I know you started wearing a new cologne, that citrus scent. Is it to impress her? He frowned. That's not cologne. That's special cleaner for my hands. It helps take the grime off. Candace picked up one of her dad's hands and brought it to her nose. It smelled citrusy, but not as strong as before. The scent was still familiar. She tried to remember where she'd smelled it before. Did you use this at home? She asked. He pulled his hand away. Probably some of the crew at the house used it. It's pretty standard in home construction. That was enough to jog her memory. She'd smelled it at the house in the kitchen, when her mother was arguing with that guy Daniel, the contractor. Okay, so it's not cologne. Does that mean you're not seeing anyone? Her father tried to smile, but his face seemed so tired. Dad, please. Lord, I am not ready for this, he said. I planned to tell you when you were older, when you were ready. Or I guess when I was ready. He paused for a moment. The lines grew even deeper in his brow. His eyes shifted from Candace to the table. I'm not seeing anyone named Danielle. But I am seeing someone. He shook his head. It's funny how it's the hardest to talk to the people you love the most. She reached out her hand again. Her father took it. Candace found herself thinking about what Miss Jones had said, how people saw what they wanted to see, especially when it came to family. She thought about her mother wanting her father to be happy, even if she couldn't be the person to provide that happiness. She thought about how she could never go over to her father's apartment without calling first, although it never seemed like another woman had been there. She thought about the scent on his hands, strong and citrusy, the same smell as the contractor that her mother seemed to hate. It was like a puzzle with all the pieces that finally fit in place. Mom didn't say Danielle, did she? Candace said quietly. He shook his head. She took a breath. Daniel. It was Daniel. His head moved a fraction of an inch, but it was a nod. So, why didn't you tell me? She asked the question, but she already knew the answer. I didn't want you to see me any differently. I wanted you to still see me as your dad. You'll always be my dad. He squeezed her hand. Just so you know, nothing happened between me and Daniel until after your mother and I separated. He scratched his beard with his free hand. It was probably a bad idea to have him work on the house. He gave us a great discount on materials and labor, but I think I was asking too much of your mom. Part of me believed that if she met him, and if she liked him, she would understand. Yeah, Dad, that's not really smart. Not smart at all. Your mom reminds me every time I talk to her about how bad of an idea it was. That's why we brought in another crew to finish the house. Well, at least now I understand why we had to move so far away from home. I'm glad it wasn't just because of those stupid tiles. Language, Candace. She rolled her eyes. You're kind of not in any position to criticize right now. Then she smiled, and he smiled back. Are you mad at me? He asked. It's okay if you are. I mean, yeah, I'm mad you didn't tell me, and that you've been lying to me for I don't know how long, and that you forced Mom to work with Daniel. I didn't force her. And fine, strongly encouraged her then, Candace said. But no, I'm not mad that you're gay. His entire body relaxed. I'm so glad to hear that. But again, it's okay if you're mad at me now, or later. It might be hard for you to picture me dating another man. Candace's stomach flipped. You're right, that is weird, she said. But it would also be strange to see you dating another woman, I guess. I don't want to picture you with anyone except for Mom. You realize that'll never happen, right? Me and your mom? She nodded. I know. But as she said it, she realized that somewhere deep down, she had hoped that somehow they'd get back together, that they would wake up one morning and realize they wanted another chance, a second chance. But that was impossible. And that's where I'm going to stop for today. And when we read next time, I think we will be very close to the end. We maybe have 1 or 2 more videos to go, and I think we're going to find out what happens at the bank. Let me know what predictions you have.